What's up, guys, and welcome back for another solo mining episode. In this one, I'm going to start off this by talking about the BPO acquisition that I did. I had been talking about it for several episodes, but finally went to Jita today and just kind of went crazy a little bit as far as BPOs because I want to get a lot of them into research. And one thing I did change was I decided to use my main to do a lot of the research, and I can do that at range essentially. But I will tell you this: today was stressful because I moved 30 bill of blueprints in a shuttle out of Jita out to where I'm researching them, and as you can expect, I was immediately targeted outside of Jita after undocking, cargo scanned, and then they attempted to get me at the gate that I was going. And I want to say I probably had like, after the damage, I probably had like maybe 20%, if not less, whole left, but I made it through the gate. So it was a very, very close call. I do not recommend flying around with 30 bill, but we got it where we needed it to go. So that definitely got the heart pumping for sure. So before we get started mining in this episode, I want to kind of get everybody up to date as far as where all the BPOs are, what we have in the cooker, and kind of what our aspirations are. I know a lot of people know that I got some lower end Tech 1 strip miner venture, but I think after you see the BPOs that I picked up, you'll be able to kind of tell how crazy I want to try to go with industry once we get to that point. This is the original. This is the command alt. So she did the first two researches for the what was it, mining laser 1 and mining laser upgrade, I believe. So she's got 2 days left on strip miner 1, got about 6 days left on venture blueprint, and then these will actually get shifted over to the main. So now let's go over the blueprints that are on the main. And like I said, I went crazy on it. So I essentially picked up every mining crystal that was there, all mining crystals and moon crystals, because I do want to kind of start making those myself to be kind of self-sufficient. So, and they're good targets for invention. So once we start getting some of the mats for invention, we're going to try to get some Tech 2 blueprint copies and start making that stuff. I also went ahead and picked up the harmonizing and extension charge there as well. I went ahead and picked up the retriever, the orca, the rorqual, pretty much all the barges, because I already had the venture, so I ended up getting the regular barges, and then the porpoise blueprint, the orca blueprint, and the rorqual blueprint. I went ahead and picked up more fuel block BPOs. We're going to need pretty much all 4 of them to do reactions and things like that. So we'll get those kind of squared away. I picked up another nanite repair paste BPO. That's going to be really quick to research. I just like having one on hand. As you can see, our mining laser upgrade 1 blueprint's already done. Same with our ice mining laser 1 blueprint. I picked up the mining charges for the burst, Tech 1 mining drone, and I think Tech 1 ice drone as well. Yeah, right here. Ice Harvester 1, there's the other 2 fuel blocks, some more moon mining crystals, there's a Cove. I picked up the Deep Core mining laser 1 blueprint, and then a bunch, pretty much all the cap part blueprints. So I picked up every cap part blueprint that's required for Orca and for Rorqual. Now I still need to get like the reaction formulas and drill down on each one of these, but the idea is that we're going to get them completely researched and then probably take one at a time and start really kind of going down that rabbit hole. Now, as far as what this character has in the cooker already, and the reason I decided to move the main to doing this was because she's already she has like 10 slots that she can do at a time. So we have the Rorqual in research right now, and then pretty much a bunch of just random capital parts. So we'll essentially when these cap parts get done, and you see all these guys are 20 days, 22 days, the main's probably going to end up handling a lot of the heavy lifting as far as the bulk of the research. But what I'll probably do is get her to 10 slots as well, and she might actually start handling some of the smaller, more easy stuff. I think that we could probably realistically start off. We'll start off by making a bunch of adventures, and then mining barges and things like that. It'll be a while before we get to Orca and Rorqual. Rorqual is basically our long-term goal. And then when we kind of get into the groove of making Rorquals and things like that, we will probably branch off into doing jump freighters. Might end up doing the hauling ships for each faction. That way I can make cranes. We'll eventually make Mackinaws. It's going to take a lot. Industry is a pretty big rabbit hole to go down. So it's going to be a while. We're still stockpiling a lot of things in the meantime, because until we get a lot of these BPOs kind of researched and where we want them to really kind of start putting manufacturing jobs in, we have a lot of mining to do before that happens, which gives us a good opportunity to stockpile. I think that we'll probably do like another couple of weeks of focusing on high-sec mining, and then we're going to have to start really focusing down on Noxium, Isogen. I might end up having to do like a week straight of doing nothing but rare ore mining and things like that. I might actually look at the agency, look at the systems that I kind of monitor and see what's out there right now, and maybe we can get something going here. In this episode, we're going to be kind of just taking care of business as usual. I think we'll probably, since we got like the BPO kind of stuff all updated and you guys kind of know what's going on there, I think we're going to go out and get this Mackinaw moving, or we might actually take the Hulk out. I'm not sure, but I'm going to jump cut and you'll know pretty much instantly what I will be doing. One of the questions I have been getting quite a lot lately is, when I am semi AFK drone mining in the Orca or Porpoise or whatever, what is kind of my main activity that I'm doing aside from that? And honestly, it kind of changes a lot. I feel like most of the time I'm not even really doing anything in Eve. I'm either messing with a spreadsheet, or I'm doing research or writing, doing video prep. When I am in Eve, and I guess to give some good ideas for people out there who are drone mining semi-AFK with the Orca, in the past I've done security missions. I can't do security missions on the alpha just because it's an alpha and you can't have them logged in at the same time as an omega. So whenever I'm on my alpha tune, that's pretty much my only focus. But in the past I've done security missions, or I've done exploration, day trading. Probably more what I do now, it would be industry preparation, market trading, day trade. Not really day trading. I don't really go crazy with like trying to buy and sell a lot, flip items in a single day, but more or less it's kind of like just market research, looking at what items have good margins, and just kind of piddling around with that kind of stuff. And yeah, or I'm out scouting, looking for checking on systems that have for rare ore. It just really kind of it's kind of whatever it's kind of subjective, really. It kind of depends on the person. If you are strictly just mining, then you could probably be out there somewhere else, maybe in with another ship doing stuff, or who knows. The ISK is not that great for solo drone mining, obviously, so doing it semi-AFK while also doing some other sort of activity is highly recommended. In this episode, I think we're going to talk quite a bit about industry and stuff like that. A lot of what I've been doing for the past few days is just kind of getting ready. And by getting ready, I mean like we're still months and months out from really kicking off the big industry stuff. We'll probably in more. It'll be a long time before we start doing like cat parts and things like that. But probably in more of the short term, I'll be looking at building and kind of mining to build some Tech One modules that can sell on the market. And strip miner ones, miner laser upgrade ones, mining drone ones, things like that. Because whenever you want to do like Tech 2 stuff, you need to take a Tech 1 blueprint and basically use it in Invention to try to get a Tech 2 blueprint. The researching a Tech 1 blueprint that you're going to use for Invention doesn't do you any good, because when you apply data cores and things like that that you get from exploration, then if you're successful in getting a Tech 2 blueprint, then you'll have a mineral efficiency and a time efficiency on there, and a run count and stuff depending on what data cores you're using. So really let's kind of look at, we got this dude mining, yeah, we're good. So let's kind of look at these blueprints really quick, and I'll kind of just kind of go over this. But like these mining crystals right here, these are probably never going to get researched, and if they do get researched, it'll just be because, you know, I'm bored, and there might be a market for Tech 1s, who knows. But the goal with this BPO is essentially use it in Invention to try to get a Tech 2 variant. So that kind of goes for all of the mining crystals, and like the mining drone ones, and then same with like the ice harvester ones and ice harvester upgrade ones. Any Tech 2 stuff that is more or less going to end up you're going to end up wanting to manufacture Tech 2 variants. You don't necessarily need to research those. But me being a completionist and kind of OCD and stuff like that, I do like just kind of researching everything, just max it out, because there are days where, you know, I can make a batch of Tech 1 modules or something, and there might be good profit margins on that. One of the spreadsheets I'm putting together in the next few days is actually going to help with tracking profit margins when it comes to a certain type of BPO. So, for instance, and we're going to talk a lot about industry this episode, but right now a porpoise is pretty good as far as profit margins. The materials going in are, right now at the time of recording this episode, they are lower than the actual end product, so that's good. So getting material efficiency research maxed out on this bro is going to help a lot, because it's going to cut down these numbers, which can help with your overall cost and your margins. So ships like this, or like BPOs like this, are pretty easy. There's no crazy inputs that are going into this. As you can see, it's just kind of the normal materials. So this porpoise is probably going to end up being one of the first that we're probably going to start trying to produce. Same with the procurer, and then the retriever, and then eventually the coveter. Those will be like, I guess you will call them that phase 1 of the industry that we will be doing. And then beyond that, it gets a little more complicated. Obviously, we'll probably end up making these boost charges. We'll be mining ice to use heavy water for that. And this is more or less not to sell, but more or less to kind of like replenish ourselves. And then when it comes down to like these Tech 1 modules, they're simple too. They'd be like phase 1 for what we're going to be doing. I'll research this one completely, because there are people out there that use ice harvester 1s. There are people out there that use ice harvester upgrade 1s and things like that. And I'm sure there are people out there that use Tech 1 mining crystals as well. And we'll look at the profit margins for all that. We'll kind of see I would, if I had to guess, I would say that like moon mining crystal tech ones are probably more widely used, because I feel like most people who are getting into like modulated strip miners, they kind of train into it all at once, and they don't really switch over until they're able to run Tech 2s. That's how I did it. I've never, I don't think I've ever equipped a Tech 1 mining crystal. I just, I stuck with Tech 1 strip miners until I could do Tech 2 crystals. Strip miner 1s, which is a BPO that we have in the cooker right now, will probably be a high volume uh, manufacture job that we'll probably do pretty consistently, because even really advanced mining characters and stuff will run Tech 1 strips just for no residue, keeping their fits low, cost low. So there is still a pretty good market for that. And then also part of phase one would be ventures. Ventures are really good. They're probably one of the better sellers for mining ships, because they're not only used for mining ships, they're also used as sinos. So we'll be making a good, healthy amount of ventures as well. And then going into, like, I guess you could call it phase two. Phase two for our industry will essentially be focusing on capital parts. And as you can see, this is where stuff really starts to get kind of complicated, because not only do you have like the normal, materials that are going into it, we also have some planetary, some PI requirements, and then also reaction stuff. Now, reactions require reaction formulas, as you can tell, and then each one of these reaction formulas also has its own input. And in addition to fuel blocks are just one other piece of the puzzle, because then you got to go in here and actually build fuel blocks, which is ice product and PI, just to output like the fuel block required for this reaction, and then pyrite and stuff like that. This was actually not that bad, really, but going into all this stuff is it's a big rabbit hole. It gets really, really complex. And that's just for one capital part, right? One piece of the puzzle. And to give you kind of a good... so this is what an Orca takes. Look at all this. All different kinds of capital parts, and then like core temperature regulators, which requires PI and a bunch of stuff. So let's look at this. It's going to require PI and then reaction as well. And then each one of these reactions has a formula. Each one of those formulas has another reaction, because there's different levels of reaction. There's like, level 1 reaction, level 2, level 3. So for like carbon polymers here, that's another formula you have to do, and that you get the moon goo there and fuel blocks that are required. And then we'll back out. We'll go to sulfuric acid. That's another formula, more moon goo, and a different type of fuel block as well. And then oxy organic solvents. That's another formula you have to get with a different fuel block. So as you can see, this stuff adds up really, really quick. And that's also why I have the fuel block BPOs. And the fuel block BPOs are their own little like thing too, because now all of them do share PI. Essentially, they have all the same PI. What the difference is between each one is the isotopes that go in. So each isotope is going to come from a different type of ice, which is found in a different part of Empire space. So now acquiring the different isotopes, if you're living in nullsec, can be difficult. Like if you're living in basically nullsec that has nitrogen isotopes, then you have to either like import all the other isotopes you need, the other 3. If you're in high sec, we could technically kind of travel around and kind of look for ice belts in the different high sec ice belts in the different Empire systems to kind of like put all that stuff together. But that can be very time consuming as well. So when it comes down to like building an actual Orca, it doesn't even start, like you don't even the actual building of the Orca is like the end of the line, right? It's like you have to get all this other stuff researched and all these other reactions. And the other thing too is with reactions, you can do invention in high sec, but reactions are exclusive to null sec and stuff like that. So that means essentially that we have to get into nullsec, do a lot of moon mining, and do all of our reactions there. Then you have the question of like, well, do you go to nullsec to do all your reactions, mine moons, and then ship all of that that reaction material back to where you're manufacturing, or do you just bring your entire operation to nullsec, which is obviously like the easiest thing to do. You might have to import some trit and stuff like that, but it is easier. But then you have to also worry about like, well, all these this product that you're manufacturing, when you finally start, putting out those orcas, or you start putting out those porpoises or procures and stuff like that, there is a market locally in different nullsec regions to sell that stuff at different Keepstar markets. But if you really want like to kind of get the most out of your profit margin, you're better off sometimes with certain things exporting it back to JITA. But then you have to actually, not only are you taking into account the material cost and then the JITA value, your margins might already be really thin. Adding export cost on top of that can pretty much obliterate almost all profit margins in most cases. So for me personally, what I did in the past and was pretty successful at doing was essentially just building fuel blocks and selling those locally in nullsec, because there's a ton of structures in nullsec. Fuel blocks are a very, very safe thing if you're wanting to get into more, I guess you could say, a little more advanced industry, because I would say it's a little more advanced because it's not like just straight materials from ore that's required. It's you have to go and mine some ice. You have to have a pretty well-oiled PI set up and everything. We'll have to get that whole thing set up as well too. I was outputting a lot of fuel blocks back in the day, but then also that required me to do a lot of ice mining as well, which can be tedious in its own right. I think whenever I was doing like the or the most volume for my fuel blocks, I think I ended up having like eight or 9 tunes doing PI. So essentially what that was it was like my main essentially would cover like some overages and process planets, and then the other 8 tunes were doing nothing but just P1 production. And you can literally spend, if you set up PI correctly, it can make you a lot of ISK in nullsec, and you could spend a lot of the vast majority of your playtime doing PI, and I do enjoy PI. I would 100% move back to null and just do PI, because if you do it, I can actually spend a lot of my time doing it. I think the only reason I haven't done like any sort of like more in-depth, long-term kind of long format stuff when it comes to PI is because the interface for Eve loves, especially for PI interfaces, UI elements, love to just throw the system that you're in all over the place. So recording content for PI is really obnoxious, because there's a lot of things to like obscure or cover up and things like that, which sucks, because PI is definitely one of my more favorite activities. I'd say it's like mining PI, and then obratting are my top 3. But I do have a lot of aspirations, and it's not like anything I haven't done before, but it's also kind of just stuff that I haven't done on the channel. I've done all this stuff before, but sharing it and articulating the process and things is kind of what's new. And definitely going into building like orcas and rorquals is more than I've ever really gotten into, because I found enough profit and success in doing the lower end stuff. And I even think that It's going to be several months. It probably, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, it's probably not going to be until next year that we really get started on the advanced manufacturing as far as capital parts, building orcas, rorquals, which is fine because as much as I'm kind of like um, yearning to go back to nullsec, I don't really want to do that right now. I think probably for the remainder of this year, we're going to get into probably in the next probably a couple weeks, we'll probably start building porpoises, procurers, retrievers, coveters, ventures, then the Tech 1 modules that kind of go into mining, and kind of give you guys a good idea of how the easier industry stuff works. I talked a lot about this. Well, not really a lot, but I mentioned a few episodes ago that I was initially planning on doing an entire separate series for the industrial stuff. But I think that as far as like the format goes, it would end up being me talking a lot about like kind of what I'm currently doing, or 'cause I think it would come down to being like, hey, this is an industry episode, and we're gonna start this job. Um, and we just got this other job complete. So look, we just built those. We put put that. Oh, we look got all these procurers made. Cool, just like you expected to happen. And we're gonna put them on market. Now we'll start this other job. All right, cool. See you next time. I think and then my one of the solutions I had to that, because I just didn't think there was like a really enough content, especially after you get everything researched and you've already got like a lot of materials. It literally just comes down to just, you know, building the thing and then selling the thing, which isn't a whole lot of juicy bits in there. The solution I had to that was kind of just starting to cover that stuff in solo mining, so I don't really have to start another series. So we can still kind of do what we've been doing as in terms of just out here in high sec and just doing general or procurement. But then as like as a aside to what we've been doing in this series, we add in the industry stuff, which I think probably would have a lot more value, to be honest. You can get a lot more I think it would put it into perspective more, because you'd be watching a series of someone mining or procuring a lot of the materials, and then you actually get to see that stuff get used, turned into an end product, and then sold. I guess I should have called this series Solo Industry, but the goal I wasn't really planning on doing an industry when I started this one, but it's fine. It'll be our little secret. Solo mining, but he does industry, but don't tell anybody. Get back out the grid here. We did do an export today to the main. Had the main come back out and pick up a couple of BPOs that were finished researching, and while that tune was out here, we went ahead and shipped what we had off to the pile. Alright, let's get these lasers turned back on. I'm thinking I really need to go do rare ore mining tomorrow. I need to focus very diligently on isogen, Noxia, Megasite, Zydrine, that stuff. I think we're going to be completely fine for Trit and Mexlon, Pyrite, all that stuff, because of all the stuff we're doing here. But the one thing I'm trying to avoid when we start doing like that phase 1 stuff, so probably what's going to end up happening is we're going to look at the numbers and we're going to look at the margins whenever we start. But most likely the first job we'll probably put in is going to be probably for the porpoise. But also, I'm kind of waiting. I'm going to try to maximize the main, who is actually going to be doing all the manufacturing and who is also holding all of the materials and who will also be in possession of all the BPOs. Will I'm working on that tune's reprocessing skills. They're already pretty high, but they were very, very specialized. So she had basically ice reprocessing and Marcox's reprocessing, because at the time that's what I was doing a lot of. Now, what's different now is since we are going out and we're getting all kinds of different ore from every aspect of New Eden, she needs to essentially have all of those different processing skills. She needs to have all of the different moon processing stuff. So we don't have to really micromanage it too much. She can just kind of willy-nilly just reprocess everything, and we know that she's got like max reprocessing skills, because that's the other side of it. Researching your BPOs for material efficiency helps with your profit margin. Researching or skilling high reprocess skills for the ore that you're going to be reprocessing will also help with your with all of your profit margins, because you're going to get, by doing the reprocessing skills and having high reprocessing, you're going to get more materials out of that ore. And then the research means that you use less ore per run. Those both in conjunction with each other is what helps. Now, if we do a lot of this manufacturing for like the phase one, and we'll call it, in high sec, we will be at a loss. Thankfully, they have removed the regional benefit, so they no longer do you get a better result by manufacturing in like null sec or low sec or high sec. We still have to worry about the system cost index and things. So we definitely want to be manufacturing in systems that don't necessarily have a lot of manufacturing going on in them. And also we want to try, if we can, to do all of our industry in a engineering complex, a player-owned citadel. Also, kind of a difficult thing to do, mainly because unless you know the person who owns that engineering complex, it's very difficult to start a multi-week job without knowing how secure those structures are. For instance, I right now I'm doing all my BPO research in an NPC structure, because I don't necessarily care about time. I don't really care how long it takes, but I don't want to start a 22-day research in a station that in 2 weeks might get unanchored or destroyed or something, and then that's gone, right? So a lot of the advanced industry stuff is pushed way out because of the fact that I'm trying to do things in the most secure manner. I don't want to have to worry about babysitting structures and all that stuff. Which is, and we've even had this problem in like nullsec, right? Where I've been in corporations where we would start jobs in like a Ritaru or something, and then they wanted to like upgrade to another, like a Satoyo, or they wanted to like move the Ritaru, or the corporation was going to move and they were going to unanchor their structures. And then we would have like corp meetings, and we'd be like, no, we can't do that. We need like at least a month notice for the industry guys to get jobs out of that engineering complex and have those things secured. Luckily, we were able to kind of develop or help develop a corporate policy of, if there was ever any sort of chance that they were going to unanchor a structure or something like that, then they had to wait until every research job was done. And once that notice was given out, then they would essentially just ask all the industry guys, like, hey, what's the longest job you got left in that structure? And between everybody that had jobs running, they would basically take the longest job and they would say, okay, we're going to wait that many days, but do not put any more jobs in. You don't get that kind of consideration in high sec, especially if you don't know the corporation that's running it. They could get war decked, and then over the course of a weekend or whatever, that structure could just be gone. I also recommend just like any sort of stockpiling you do for like ore, or you know, keeping your BPO somewhere, try to keep them, if you're in high sec, try to keep them in NPC structures. Even if you operate in like null or something, and I've done this before in 2, where I've gone like on 2-month hiatuses away from the game. Even in Alliance, even in structures that I knew weren't going to go anywhere, I'd take all of my assets, which is a big reason why I use like a Rorqual for like a suitcase and stuff. Before going on this hiatus, this planned absence from the game for an extended amount of time, I would take all my assets, I'd put them in an NPC structure. Even in like, there's even in a non-sov nullsec systems, there are NPC structures. But I would take all my assets, jump them to an NPC structure in nullsec, and just park them there. Because the last thing you want is to go on like a hiatus, and whether it be like you're going on vacation or whatever the case may be, the last thing you want is to come back to the game and then find all of your items are in like asset safety. Or even worse, like the structure may have like got its core pulled and it went to low power, and then it got triggered abandoned, and then, you know, all your stuff literally just got shot into space for somebody else to loot. So do yourself a favor, in any sort of significant stockpiling, or like what I like to call mothballs. There's been times where like ships that I know I'm not going to use for a long time, I like to say I'm putting those ships on mothballs. I will park them in an NPC structure where they're relatively still close by. And close by gets a lot bigger whenever you have access to like ships that have maintenance bays with jump drives and stuff. But definitely anything you care about, because that's the thing, is asset safety is not necessarily bad. Doesn't mean you lose it, but you have to pay a tax on it in order to get it back. Which in some cases, if you have a lot of stuff, if you're really hoarding a lot of stuff, you don't hold a lot of like ISK or Plex, you might not actually have the funds at to get that stuff out when you need it, or when it goes in. So that's just something to be mindful of. But pretty much all this other stuff is yeah, like D4 mining laser has a little bit of extra stuff, right? Got some planetary materials in this one. This would be like a phase 2 kind of item and stuff. And then drones can be a little complicated too, but these are pretty simple. Mining drone ones, we'll probably make some of these. Isogen, Noxium, Megasite. Unfortunately, not really high sec friendly or anything. Ice is kind of the same thing. But and like this stuff, like the shield charges are a little bit more involved, right? You gotta have like 2 different types of isotopes and heavy water and stuff like that. But the mining ones, which we use more of, is really simple. You know, isogen, trit, and some heavy water. All of which we can get in high sec, right? We'll go rare ore here, feldspar here, ice here. Not a big deal. And also, it's like, you know, a lot of people want to like build like just like a procurer. Let's say like you really want to build procurers, and it's gonna like force you into like different areas of space. Maybe like you think, oh, I gotta go low sec if I really want to build this stuff. You don't have to. If the procurer is something you really do want to build, you can take the time and probably get more yield going and looking for rare ores. Or with what I'll probably end up doing a little bit as well is grab a venture or something and go into a really low-key system and grab some ore out of there just to help kind of plus up that side of things. But pretty much all of these mining crystals take the same thing. They're just Noxium dumps for the most part. I might end up looking at these as far as see what their profit margins are, and also kind of see what kind of volume they move in JITA. See how many people are actually buying Tech 1 mining crystals. I can't imagine it's not really not a high number, to be honest. But as you can tell, we went from basically having like 4 BPOs to like, how many is this? 63, and then we have 64, 65, 75. Right? Yeah. So, excuse me, we went from 4 BPOs and then to 75. But that gives us some options, right? That gives us a lot of things to kind of play around with. And for me, that's why I don't really reprocess anything until I'm ready to use it, because I'm always looking at those BPOs every day. It's like, well, I want to build something. I have a slot. I have a manufacturing slot to build something to start a job. And what I'll do is I will go through all of the BPOs that I have that I can make, and I'll look at profit margins. It's like, because it's not really about, it is a little bit about like what the profit margin is when you start the job. But if that job takes 30 days to complete, depending on how many runs you're doing, you gotta hope that by the end of that that run time, that manufacturing time, the profit margins are still good. So sometimes it's actually worth it going with lower run counts across maybe multiple different BPOs in different sections or sectors of the market. That way, when all that stuff starts coming out of the cooker, you can then look at it again and look at the margins, and then offload what has the better margins. That's the other thing too, is don't like be worried about selling that inventory. Like, if you do everything correctly, then you should be able to sit on any asset and wait for the market to be good for you to sell it. You don't want to get in a position where you're like, oh, I'm going to make 50 procurers and then I have to move them right now, or I'm not going to be able to do any other jobs. Don't put yourself in that position. Make some procurers. If the profit margins aren't good when they come out of the cooker, or if you think that they could be better, just hold them. That's the best way for me, in my opinion, to do manufacturing, is to literally build a bunch of stuff and only sell it when it has good margins and when it looks really, really good. And desperation just is never going to end well in most cases. Got it. Killing some rocks now. Yeah, but I think we've covered pretty much everything in here. Like I said, the main is basically just doing a bunch more cat parts, and the Rorquals are pretty much going to be in research for the next foreseeable future, probably the next 3 months. The Orca is also going to take a considerable amount of time to research as well, and everything. I need to try to get, she has 3 more slots on her, so I'm probably going to start the Retriever, Procure, and probably the Porpoise on her tonight. And then in a couple days, I think the Adventure and the her 2 BPOs will be done. And then we'll basically throw Coveter, Orca in the cooker as well. Try to go, I don't know. I'm trying to get the ships always take longer to research than modules do. We could actually just kind of throw some modules in research and get those kind of done. There's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just it all needs to get done eventually. But Porpoise and Retriever and Procure are definitely something that I want to make here in the next month, if not by the end of this month. Start doing those. And we'll probably actually wait for those BPOs to be completely researched, and then do like a good amount of runs on them. So instead of being like, oh, we're going to build 1 Procure, or 1 Porpoise rather, no, I'm going to try to build like 10 or so all at once. Because like that's what's nice about industry, is like if you kind of set it all up correctly, you can just reprocess a bunch of materials, start a 30-day job or whatever, and then just come back later. kind of doing its thing in the background. That's kind of the goal here. All right. But I think that'll probably be it for this episode. I'm going to finish this trip and then try to get some sleep. It's a little late for me, or I guess early. It's in the AM. But I wanted to, kind of update you guys on the BPO situation and kind of, well, all that stuff. I think if all's good, we're going to try to go do some rare ore mining tomorrow. Try to grab some of that sweet, sweet isogen. I will have to take this character to Jita before that and grab some either some strip 1s or some type A2s. I might actually run strip 1s because it's never really a range issue out there. I'd rather just like not burn or residue, any of that stuff. But if we can kind of go out there and grab a full Mackinaw of that rare ore for isogen, that'd be pretty cool. Basically, every time I'm out there, I'm always like looking for the Zydrain Megasite, Noxium, and isogen. Those are absolutely what we need. We're Trid and all the others, Trid, Mexilon, Pyrite. That's it. We're gonna have mountains of that stuff by the end of it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to support the channel and all that stuff, consider becoming a member. That stuff really helps me, and I'll have a lot more member exclusive stuff coming out this month and into the next foreseeable future, in terms of spreadsheets or some member only guides, and I'm really kind of workshopping a lot of what I can do for the members and stuff, and all that stuff goes and helps cover all this damn Omega cost and all that. But anyway, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.